From the time you were born, you've engaged in learning. Let's take a look at the purpose of learning and development in the organizational context. The list of learning in life is almost endless. Now think about how you've learned to do these things. Did you have a teacher? Was it in a classroom setting? Did you get it right the first time? Do you learn everything all at once or over time? At a basic level, learning, which includes training and development, is needed to ensure that workers recruited and selected are able to do their jobs well and that they'll be prepared for future jobs in the company. If the labor market is flush with many highly qualified workers, managers can easily find employees with the skill sets required to be immediately productive in their jobs. As a result, these workers will need less training and development. Conversely, fewer qualified workers in the labor market will mean that employers will need to provide more training to ensure that they can better perform the work needed. Learning and development encompasses a range of activities that enable employees to perform their jobs efficiently and effectively now and in the future. Additionally, lack of employee development opportunities offered by an organization is a major reason that young high achievers look for new or other jobs. Providing the appropriate learning and development opportunities for employees will increase their satisfaction and help them perform at a higher level, better enabling the organization to achieve its goals. Employee orientation ensures that new employees know and understand company policies and procedures. When done well, orientation helps employees get off to the right start. In most organizations, orientation introduces new employees to the history of the company, describes the culture, and informs employees about policies and procedures. Recent research of employee orientation has shown that managing orientation differently may have greater value for new employees and ultimately the organization. For many companies, new employee orientation is only one part of a larger program referred to as onboarding. Onboarding refers to the hiring and integration processes used to socialize new employees to the organization. This process has become more important to employers in recent years as they've recognized the critical role of human capital in organizational success. We know that up to 4% of new employees quit after a bad first day, and up to 40% of senior managers hired externally fail within 18 months. Therefore, it's no surprise that programs that create a welcoming environment and set new employees up for success are critical. Onboarding programs can be informal, but most are formal programs that help bring new employees up to speed quickly and connect them with coworkers. This process ensures that employees have the information they need or know where to get it, have someone to go to with questions and problems, and receive the training needed to be successful on the job. During the entire onboarding process, employees need to understand that they matter as individuals to the company. Learning involves acquiring both tacit and explicit knowledge. Employees acquire knowledge through formal and informal training activities and other experiences. Training is the systematic process of providing employees with the competencies, knowledge, skills, and abilities required to do their current jobs. Employees can obtain the KSAs on the job by attending classes either online or in a classroom setting, by participating in role plays or simulations, or through a combination of these and other methods. In addition to training employees for their current jobs, companies also invest a lot of resources in developing employees for other jobs. Development prepares employees to take on additional responsibilities in different jobs, usually at a higher level. Both training and development help an organization equip its workforce to gain a sustained competitive advantage. Good managers make sure that their employees participate in both. For example, many companies invest a lot of money in skills training and invest heavily in leadership development programs designed to prepare workers for higher-level jobs in their firms. The importance of learning and development cannot be overemphasized. In fact, companies that treat learning and development as a fundamental requirement for achieving their goals have been rewarded by this philosophy. One study of 500 publicly traded companies found that companies that invested in most learning and development programs for their employees returned significantly higher returns to their shareholders than companies who did not. In 2015, companies in the United States spent $70.6 billion on employee training, an average of $702 per learner. Companies that placed higher value on learning are known as high-impact learning organizations and spent an average of $867 per learner. Appreciating the potential value of learning and development is only part of the equation. Effective managers understand that learning and development activities must be carried out properly to be effective. This process includes needs assessment, design, implementation, and evaluation. Each part of the training process is critical. As a manager, the input you provide for each part will be important to its success. If your organization has a training department, you'll provide job information to the department to use in the designing of programs. Training has tremendous potential to improve the performance of employees, but it's often costly and time-consuming. Consequently, wise managers conduct a training needs assessment to understand where training activities can have the most impact within the organization. A needs assessment identifies where gaps exist between what employees should be doing and what they're actually doing. Training is used to fill these gaps. The needs assessment begins with an organizational analysis to determine a firm's progress towards achieving its goals and objectives. Scanning the environment for opportunities and threats and evaluating strengths and weaknesses internally will help you identify training gaps. After an organizational analysis, the next step is to conduct a task analysis. The purpose of the task analysis is to identify gaps between the KSAs needed to perform the work required to support an organization's objectives and its employees' current and actual KSAs. A person analysis involves deciding which employees actually need to participate in training programs. The information needed to make this decision can come from a variety of sources, including observation, performance appraisals, supervisor recommendations, and employee skill inventories. Individual production records and skills tests also help determine which employees need training. The information from the needs analysis tells managers where in the organization training is needed through organizational analysis, what the focus of training initiatives should be through task analysis, and which employees should participate in the training programs through person analysis. And while this is critical information, training must also be effectively designed to be of value. A clear understanding of the goals of the program at the beginning of the design process will help ensure that the training program is results-oriented and supports the mission of the organization. Effectively designing a training program includes establishing the program's instructional objectives, developing lessons plans for it, and incorporating principles of learning. Writing effective instructional objectives is the first steps in designing a training program. Instructional objectives describe the purpose of the training program and what it will accomplish. The objectives should be linked to the organization's goals and conveyed to employees so that they understand what they should learn from the training and how they can use it on the job. If you have to find your way to a new place, would you rather have someone tell you the directions, draw you a map, or take you there for the first time? Learning styles affect how people absorb information and process it to do a job. The final component of a successful training program is evaluation. Training programs are expensive, so it's critical that they deliver results. Training professionals have identified 5 levels of evaluation. Designing effective training requires a well-thought-out and systematic process. U.S. organizations spent about $70.6 billion on employee training and development in 2015. That's a lot of money for training. The decision about how much to spend for learning and development will depend on your company's strategy. Deciding how much money is available for training should be factored into organizational needs analysis. If little money is available, the company will have to use other means to ensure that employees are trained to do their jobs. More selective hiring is one alternative. A company might hire many unskilled employees and give them the minimum level of training needed to do their job. This approach costs less than paying higher wages for workers who are already trained. On the other hand, some organizations view expensive training initiatives as a mechanism to actually save money in the long run via increased employee productivity, safety, and teamwork. A company's strategy influences the type of investments it's willing to make in terms of training its employees. Because each company is unique, achieving its strategic objectives means that a company has to train its employees in a way that adds the most value possible to the firm. Of course, many training programs aren't optional for companies because not delivering training can actually result in increased costs or other problems. Failing to provide a sufficient amount of safety training for employees is likely to result in more employee injuries, higher medical costs for the firm, and government fines. There are direct costs of failing to train employees. Indirect costs can include recruiting and hiring expenses related to replacing employees who are injured or who can no longer work, or who quit because they believe their workplace isn't safe. Similarly, ensuring that employees understand any regulatory restrictions or requirements they must adhere to will dramatically decrease a firm's long-term legal problems. Therefore, managers need to remember that no matter what the company strategy, there are certain types of training that have to occur regardless of cost. The size and stage of development of a company influence where training is done, who does the training, the type of training needed, and how the training is provided. An increasing number of companies have created their own training centers, known as corporate campuses or corporate universities. They bring their employees to these locations for much of their training because they want to ensure that all employees have the same training experience. A company's stage of development influences who does the training. Managers in small businesses are likely to do much of the training or make a strong case for why resources should be used to send employees to special training programs. Larger and more mature organizations are likely to have training departments that can help identify appropriate training opportunities and resources. As a manager in such a firm, you'll be responsible for providing information to your training department about the type of training your employees need to perform at a high level. In very large organizations, many employees perform the same type of job. A standardized training program can be designed for a large number of employees at a low cost because of one set of materials is developed and used many times. Companies with few employees might be forced to send them out to outside training programs because doing so is less expensive than developing their own programs. Of course, these companies might simply resort to on-the-job training. E-learning has made external types of training more accessible, but again, cost and time are factors that can limit the use of e-learning.